We're back. This is Tina and Friends. I'm Tina Trenner, Larry Harrison, and Tony Barney, and we're going to talk about reverse mortgages because we're talking about the United Nations and all these little plans that they've been putting into place, as far as I can figure, way back into the 70s. And they're creeping, dimbling us to death like ducks, just little around the edges. And one of the things that you're seeing on television all the time now is a reverse mortgage. So anyone that is 62 years of age or over that has a home and has equity in that home, as if anybody does anymore, but if you should, you can actually get the government to start sending you payments for your home. Now, if you've got $200,000 or $300,000 worth of equity, they work out some sort of a payment schedule with you, and they start sending you money. You have to live in the home, and you cannot sell a home, and when you die, they get the home. So my question is, what is the government, and now this is not a private lending, this is the government. What does the government want to, what do they want with your house? The heck's up with that? You know what? It smells bad. It smells all wrong. It sounds really nice, but if the government's doing something that sounds really nice, it's always wrong. Okay, that's just my opinion, but hey, you know what I mean?
Well, it's one thing for the government to assist its citizens in home ownership through guaranteeing loans. It's quite another, in my opinion, for the government to become involved in taking over houses. Now, some people justify reverse mortgage as it creates a stream of income for an elderly person that otherwise wouldn't have it, but is that really the role of government in terms of home ownership? Are they to guarantee payments to you and then once you pass away, become the owner of a home? It seems to me that the government wouldn't want to become involved in having to then turn around and become a seller of a home.
And wouldn't you normally leave your home to your family? I mean, isn't that, here they're talking right in here about the accumulation of wealth. And whatever that wealth may be, and when you pass that on to your family, that then reinforces the middle class, does it not?
Well, I don't have as much of a problem with the idea that you could or you couldn't leave your home to your children, because if you didn't have a stream of income, it would have to come from somebody. So if your family is willing to give you that stream of income, that would be great. The problem is many families can't, and so
families usually take care of each other. That's what families used to do.
My concern, though, is more with the government holding ownership of a house. And once an individual dies, you have a government that has all these houses that it owns.
How many do they have? There's a question. Wouldn't you like the answer to that one? How many do they have?
Well, there's no answer to that because so many of them have not even been released. Those that have been impounded through
foreclosure,
failure, through foreclosure and so forth. So that one little spot, there is a place in society for the reverse mortgage. In that, let's say a person had their investments, their longevity.
I totally understand that.
So Bernie Madoff absconds with all of their money.
Yep.
Now they have nothing except a home that they own free and clear. They're in their 80s or more, and I'm talking about World War II guys that really went out there and fought, and they worked hard, and they saved their money, and they're the Depression survivors and so forth. And now all they have is real estate.
I know, Larry,
and they want to live in the home that they raised their family in.
But if this was not the government doing this, if this was private business that was doing this, then I'd say, okay, they're getting the houses and they're selling the houses, and that's a good deal.
And
but when the government,
there is a good distinction though that you make there. Larry had mentioned that we have houses that are being held back, but they're being held back by banks, private banks. Whereas you have a situation that Tina raises is we have houses that are held by the government, and what impetus is there for the government to sell the house? They're not a private entity. If they sit on the house, there's really nothing that nobody loses but the taxpayers.
It's a bizarre notion. I just think it's really a bizarre thing, and I tried to get more information, and no one was very forthcoming with the information. I think that being able to sell your house, why don't you just sell your house and take the equity and go live in an apartment if that's what you want to do? But why, if the government wraps its arms around you, it's a big fat boa constrictor squeezing the life out of you. Don't ever forget that. If they're doing this, they're doing it for a reason, but we can't find the reason.
Maybe they're going to let the UN people move into those houses. They have to live somewhere, don't
All
they?
right, there has to be some levity in this show. Thanks for being the comic relief there, Larry. I don't know what they're doing, but it just doesn't seem right. And as I said, I tried to find out what happens to these houses, and they just said, oh, we just sell them. Yeah, to who? How? Why? When? I don't know. There's just, remember this, because eventually I'm always right. I don't know. Sometimes it takes 5 years. Remember, I'm not welcome at Christmas sometimes, but I'm always right, and that makes them even madder at me. I can't help it. Something's not right with this, so that's just what I have to say. And when you have the United Nations planning what you can do with your land, commons, excuse me, this is a sovereign nation, this is our land, get the hell, like I said, why don't we just move them out of that big building, move to Europe, go. We can find something to do with that building. We don't need the UN there. They probably don't pay the rent anyway. I wonder if they do pay the rent. Now there's a question, isn't it?
That's a good question.
See, all I have to do is just keep thinking. I will come up with something else. All these guys, when we go off camera, they go, Tina, why did you say that? Because it just came to me. Suppose they're behind on their rent. Wonder where you find that out. I'll Google and find out. Yeah, I find out so much. Isn't the internet wonderful? And that's another thing. I had a long conversation with Mark Lloyd at the FCC. You know, the guy that they keep saying is, trying to do all these things. I don't know if he is. I had a really good conversation with him. I was shocked. I was ready for a big conversation. I was going to be really insulting, actually. But he was a nice guy, and he gave me a lot of information and made a lot of sense. I'm going to have to go back and have another conversation. That doesn't make sense for me to have gotten along with him, does it?
No,
But
I'm glad you got along with him.
Yeah, me too. Part of the Obama administration. Isn't that weird? We'll be back, huh, Larry?
Yep, we'll be
Okay.
back. Let's talk about some healthcare stuff when we come back.
All right, let's talk about healthcare because Larry
Where's
knows
that going?
something. We'll be right back.